What is up, everyone? Today we're on day 39 of our Bible in a Year series. We're reading through Leviticus 22 through 24, and it'll be today and one more day. We have a Leviticus, and that is it. So, coming up fast on the end of that, we will jump straight into it. No need to delay. Leviticus 22. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons to deal respectfully with the holy offerings of Israelites that they have consecrated to me, so they do not profane my holy name. I am the Lord. Say to them, if any man from any of your descendants throughout your generations is in a state of uncleanness, yet approaches the holy offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Lord, that person will be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. No man of Aaron's descendants who has a skin disease or a discharge is to eat from the holy offerings until he is clean. Whoever touches anything made unclean by a dead person or by a man who has an emission of that, or whoever touches any swarming creature that makes him unclean, or any person who makes him unclean, whatever his uncleanness." So, real quick, I'm skipping over some of these words basically because I'm not 100% sure what YouTube is going to flag. I thought I had an idea, and I've seen some things get flagged that I didn't think should be flagged. So, skipping over some. But, yeah. Verse 6. The man who touches any of these will remain unclean until evening, and is not to eat from the holy offerings unless he has bathed his body with water. When the sun has set, he will become clean, and then he may eat from the holy offerings, for that is his food. He must not eat an animal that died naturally or was mauled by wild beast, making himself unclean by it. I am the Lord. They must keep my instruction, or they will be guilty and die because they profane it. I am the Lord who sets them apart. No one outside a priest's family is to eat the holy offering. A foreigner staying with a priest or a hired worker is not to eat the holy offering. But if a priest purchases someone with his own silver, that person may eat it, and those born in his house may eat his food. If the priest's daughter is married to a man outside a priest's family, she is not to eat from the holy contributions. But if the priest's daughter becomes widowed or divorced, has no children, and returns to her father's house as in her youth, she may share her father's food, but no outsider may share it. If anyone eats a holy offering in error, he is to add a fifth to its value and give the holy offering to the priest. The priest must not profane the holy offerings the Israelites give to the Lord by letting the people eat their holy offerings and having them bear the penalty of restitution, for I am the Lord who sets them apart. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to Aaron, his sons, and all the Israelites, and tell them, any man of the house of Israel or of the residents aliens in Israel who presents his offering, whether they present payment of vows or free will, gifts to the Lord as a burnt offerings, must offer an unblemished male from the cattle, sheep, or goats in order for you to be accepted. You are not to present anything that has a defect, because it will not be accepted on your behalf. When a man presents a fellowship sacrifice to the Lord to fulfill a vow, or as a freewill offering from the herd or flock, he has to be unblemished to be acceptable. There must be no defect in it. You are not to present any animal to the Lord that is blind, injured, maimed, or has a running sore, festering rash, or scabs. You may not put any of them on the altar as a food offering to the Lord. You may sacrifice as a freewill offering any animal from the herd or flock that has an elongated or stunted limb, but it is not acceptable as a vow offering. You are not to present to the Lord anything that has bruised, crushed, torn, or severed male parts. You must not sacrifice them in your land. Neither you nor a foreigner are to present food to your God from any of these animals. They will not be accepted for you because they are deformed and have a defect. Sorry, I had to mute something. The Lord spoke to Moses, when an ox, sheep, or goat is born, it is to remain with a mother for 7 days. From the 8th day on, it will be acceptable as an offering, a food offering to the Lord, but you are not to slaughter an animal from the herd or flock on the same day as its young. When you offer a thanksgiving sacrifice to the Lord, offer it so that you may be accepted. It is to be eaten on the same day. Do not let any of it remain until the morning. I am the Lord. You are to keep my commands and do them. I am the Lord. You must not profane my holy name. I must be treated as holy among the Israelites. I am the Lord who sets you apart, the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord. So, a lot of what we're seeing here is just talking about the sacrifice that you're bringing. It needs to be good. It would be easy if because the sacrifice is actually costing something, it would be easy if an individual had, if these rules weren't in place, if it didn't have these instructions, it would be very, very easy to, well, I have this sheep or this lamb or this bull or whatever that is already kind of has this defect, it's not good, so I'll sacrifice that. Whereas God is saying, no, I deserve the best, and he deserves the best. So those are in place, kind of setting that up so that it is actually a sacrifice. It's not just kind of getting rid of something that's already not great. Leviticus 23. The Lord spoke to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, these are my appointed times, the times of the Lord that you will proclaim as sacred assemblies. Work may be done for 6 days, but on the 7th day there is to be a Sabbath of complete rest, a sacred assembly. You are not to do any work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord wherever you live. These are the Lord's appointed times, the sacred assemblies you are to proclaim at their appointed times. The Passover to the Lord comes in the first month at twilight, on the 14th day of the month. The festival of unleavened bread to the Lord is on the 15th day of the same month. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day, you are to hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. You are to present a food offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 7th day, there will be a sacred assembly. Do not do any daily work. The Lord spoke to Moses, speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land I am giving you and reap its harvest, you are to bring the first sheaf of the harvest to the priest. He will present the sheaf before the Lord so that you may be accepted. The priest is to present it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day you present the sheaf, you are to offer a year-old lamb without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord. Its grain offering is to be 4 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil as a food offering to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, and its drink offering will be 1 quart of wine. You must not eat bread, roasted grain, or any new grain until this very day, and until you have brought the offering to your God. This is to be a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. You are to count 7 complete weeks, starting from the day after the Sabbath, the day you brought the sheaf of the presentation offering. You are to count 50 days until the day after the 7th Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. Bring 2 loaves of bread from your settlements as a presentation offering, each of them made from 4 quarts of fine flour, baked with yeast as first fruits to the Lord. You are to present with the bread 7 unblemished male lambs, a year old, 1 young bull, and 2 rams, and they will be burnt offering to the Lord, with their grain offerings and drink offering, a food offering, a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You are also to prepare 1 male goat as a sin offering, and 2 male lambs as a year old as a fellowship sacrifice. The priest will present the lambs with the bread of first fruits as a presentation offering before the Lord. The bread and the 2 lambs will be holy to the Lord for the priest. On that same day you are to make a proclamation and hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. This is to be the permanent statute wherever you live throughout your generations. When you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap all the way to the edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and the resident alien. I am the Lord your God. The Lord spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you are to have a day of complete rest, commemoration, and trumpet blast, a sacred assembly. You must not do any daily work, but you must present a food offering to the Lord. The Lord again spoke to Moses. The 10th day of the 7th month is the Day of Atonement. You are to hold a sacred assembly and practice self-denial. You are to present a food offering to the Lord. On this particular day you are not to do any work, for it is a day of atonement to make atonement for yourselves before the Lord your God. If any person does not practice self-denial on this particular day, he is to be cut off from his people. I will destroy among his people anyone who does any work on this same day. You are not to do any work. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. It will be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you must practice self-denial. You are to observe your Sabbath from the evening of the 9th day to the month until the following evening. The Lord spoke to Moses, tell the Israelites the festival shelters to the Lord begins on the 15th day of this 7th month and continues for 7 days. There is to be a sacred assembly on the first day. You are not to do any work, any daily work. You are to present a food offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 8th day you are to hold a sacred assembly and present a food offering to the Lord. It is a solemn assembly. You are not to do any daily work. These are the Lord's appointed times that you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies for presenting food offerings to the Lord, burnt offerings and grain offerings, sacred or sacrifices and drink offerings, each on its designated day. These are in addition to the offerings for the Lord's Sabbaths, your gifts, all your vow offerings, and all your freewill offerings that you give to the Lord. You are to celebrate the Lord's festival on the 15th day of the 7th month for the 7th day. After you have gathered the produce of the land, there will be complete rest on the first day and complete rest on the 8th day. On the first day, you are to take the product of majestic trees, palm fronds, boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You are to celebrate it as a festival to the Lord 7 days each year. This is a permanent statute for you throughout the generations. Celebrate in the 7th month. You are to live in shelters for 7 days. All the native-born Israel must live in shelters, so that your generations may know that I made the Israelites live in shelters when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. So Moses declared the Lord's appointed times to the Israelites. So, a lot of this here is it's making sure that they remember where God has brought them from. There's celebration there because of where God has brought them from. Okay? Chapter 24. The Lord spoke to Moses, command the Israelites and bring you pure oil from crushed olives for the light in order to keep the lamp burning regularly. Aaron is to tend it continually from evening until morning before the Lord outside the curtain of the testimony in the tent of meeting. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations. He must continually tend the lamps on the pure gold lampstand in the Lord's presence. Take fine flour and bake it into 12 loaves. Each loaf is to be made with 4 quarts. Arrange them in 2 rows, 6 to a row, on the pure gold table before the Lord. Place pure frankincense near each row, so that it may serve as a memorial portion for the bread and a food offering to the Lord. The bread is to be set before the Lord every Sabbath day as a permanent covenant obligation on the part of the Israelites. It belongs to Aaron and his sons, who are to eat it in a holy place, for it is the holiest portion for him from the food offerings to the Lord. This is a permanent rule. Now, the son of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father was among the Israelites. A fight broke out in the camp between the Israelite woman's son and an Israelite man. Her son cursed and blasphemed the name, and they brought him to Moses. His mother's name was Shelomith, a daughter of Dibri, of the tribe of Dan. That was terrible. They put him in custody until the Lord's decision could be made clear to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, bring the one who has cursed to the outside of the camp, and have all who heard him lay their hands on his head. Then have the whole community stone him. And tell the Israelites, if anyone curses his God, he will bear the consequences of his sin. Whoever blasphemes the Lord, or blasphemes the name of the Lord, must be put to death. The whole community is to stone him. If he blasphemes the name, he is to be put to death. whether a resident alien or the native. If a man kills anyone, he must be put to death. Whoever kills an animal is to make restitution for it, life for life. If any man inflicts a permanent injury on his neighbor, whatever he has done is to be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Whatever injury he inflicted on the person, the same is to be inflicted on him. Whoever kills an animal is to make restitution for it, but whoever kills a person is to be put to death. You are to have the same law for the resident alien and the native, because I am the Lord your God. After Moses spoke to the Israelites, they brought the one who had cursed to the outside of the camp and stoned him. So the Israelites did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Okay. That's all the reading for today. I might actually be back down under 25 minutes, which I've not been the last 4 or 5 days. So, we'll jump straight into the questions and make sure we keep this under 25. So, what do the guidelines for offerings in Leviticus 22 teach us about the attitude we should have when approaching God in worship? Again, it is our best. It is not just what we have. It's not what is not going to... It's not what we can give that's not going to hurt or that's going to hurt the least. It is our best, our first, before we know what's even coming next. That is the idea. It's supposed to be sacrificial. It's a sacrifice, right? So it needs to be something more than just what's left. If it's just what's left, that's not really sacrificial. That's not really trusting God. Okay? That would be... So I think as far as the attitude that we should have, right? I think it is something that it is... we need to view it as something that is actually sacrificial. My camera's messing up. Okay, I think I'm good. We need to view it as something that is actually sacrificial. That hurts, right? We are giving up something that is valuable to us. Now, I don't know what that is. There can be a lot of different things that could be. And it's not going to be the same for each person. Question 2. How does the emphasis on the Sabbath and festivals in these chapters inform our understanding of rest and celebration in our spiritual lives? Rest is a huge deal. I think a lot of people don't get. It's very easy to just be running, and work, and never actually take time to rest. It's an important thing. It helps you rejuvenate. It's important enough that God took a day to rest. God doesn't need to rest. He took a day to rest to show us the importance of it, right? So it is something that is important. We're instructed to do it. We're told to do it. We see that as an example. Now, we also need to not get super critical with it like the I almost said the Philistines. That's not right. The Pharisees did. That was made for us. We were not made for that, like Jesus says. So it needs to be something that we have a good perspective on, but it is for us to benefit us. You do need to take time to rest. It's not healthy to just always be going. Now the celebration, like I talked about, some of their celebrations are to remind themselves of what God has done for them and what he's brought them through and things like that. So I think that is a good practice to get into. I think it'd be cool to see more people that have their own personal holidays and stuff where it's something that their family does to remember something God has brought them out of or something God has done for them, right? If you have an idea, if you're already doing that or you have an idea or your family starts that, I would love to hear some of those. I think that would be really, really cool to see if we're thinking about maybe doing some of that ourselves. We'll see if I can maybe actually get a video or something like that if we do end up actually doing some of these. But I think this is good. It's important. Obviously, God tells the Israelites to do it. It's not a command necessarily for us today, but I think it could be a good habit to get into for us today. So, if anyone has anything that they do that I think it stands out or is cool or just they want to let people know, put it in the comments. You can send a message, whatever. Question 3. In what ways can we apply the principles of holiness and community found in Leviticus 24 to foster a deeper connection with God and each other? So, having a proper understanding and reverence of God. and God's holiness. Really genuinely understanding how holy God is, I think makes us really look at sin differently. I'm not saying you will never be tempted or you'll never even sin again, but it definitely changes your view on sin. You no longer see it as it's not just something you do that you don't like that you do, but you just do it and you try not to. You really start to hate sin. Okay? That is something I think having a proper understanding of God's holiness really begins to foster in your own life and your way of thinking and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that's it for today. Appreciate everyone watching, listening, commenting, all that. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Don't if this has been a blessing to you, share it with other people. That's the best way that podcasts spread. I say it every time, but it's true. That's the best way that podcasts spread is by word of mouth. So if this has been a blessing for you and you think that it would be a blessing for other people as well, spread the word. Let them know. They can jump in here. They can jump at the beginning and work their way up. However they want to do it. There's really no wrong way. We're going to keep this up for the entire year, and then next year we're going to start it again with a different translation, and I'm planning on just doing that every single year. So for the foreseeable future, we're going to have a new video every single day forever. Probably not forever, because eventually I don't know. We'll see what happens. But appreciate everyone watching, listening, all that. I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.